What's up, everyone? Welcome back into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center, back in the normal setting, football field behind us, and another day of training camp behind us, Tim, another day of interviews behind us, and 10 days, just 10 short days until Ohio State and Notre Dame hit the field against each other in the Horseshoe for a 7:30 kick on September 3rd.
I was trying to think the other day, by the way, of a more anticipated season opener than this one. I don't think I have one come to mind. The closest might have been when they played Alabama in the Kickoff Classic back in '86. I'm talking about since I've been covering the team. But this one, man, it has a pizzazz all its own, man. It's really interesting to be starting a season off, two top 5 teams going at it.
You know what else has pizzazz, Tim? The Ohio State wide receivers room. A lot of pizzazz, a lot of skill, a lot of stars, a lot of talent, and a lot of expectations on a unit that lost 2 first-round NFL draft picks.
Yep.
But this unit does not seem to be too worried about any of those expectations, any of the weight that's carried by, that was carried last year by Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, now in the NFL. A lot to take away from these guys tonight, but really not a lot to take away. They're talented, they're confident, they expect to be great. Tim, what did you learn from the Ohio State wide receivers in our short media session with them tonight?
I think they reflect their coach, Brian Hartline, a lot from the standpoint of, I don't care what you did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to do it all over again. Like he said, the stats are 0, 0, 0. I'm paraphrasing there, but like he said, it's starting all over now. Without a doubt, what Marvin Harrison Jr. did in the Rose Bowl was eye-opening, but not really to a lot of us who cover the team and expected that kind of performance. It's still being big on that big stage and then delivering shows you what can come from this guy because of the way he delivered. Emeka Egbuka, I was talking to him off to the side, and I said, man, I mention you every time I'm on any radio, TV show, whatever, even sometimes the stories I write about how I expect this to be a big year. And he's just like almost flatline, great guy, nice guy, but just kind of flatline, oh, thank you. But then where he is basically improved just over the last year, he figures into the bunch. But, as intriguing as that is, I think with Emeka Egbuka's chance to really step up now is Julian Fleming. And I'm going to do a little piece on that later this week, just because the legend of Julian Fleming now that Brian Day told us about the other day, about him suffering getting his shoulder knocked out again.
Yep.
Early in a practice, popping it back in himself, and then catching 2 touchdown passes in basically the red zone scrimmage part of the practice. That's so huge for him to prove to him he himself can play with this. Like he said, there's a difference between being injured and hurt. And he's determined, that's a hurt that he can deal with. And that's huge because this guy had 5-star potential coming in. We all know that. Mm-hmm. And this may be his moment.
His injury and then touchdown kind of reminded me, you've heard the story from the Super Bowl with the Rams, Torrey Holt, I think it was, or Isaac Bruce, one of the two, the greatest show on turf. Yep. One of them broke a finger mid-route, snapped it back into place, caught a touchdown pass, and then had it looked at by the doctor, played the rest of the game, and they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Julian Fleming's legend might be a little bit even more impressive than that, considering what he's been through on and off the field.
Exactly.
And I say off the field. On the field, the injuries, I believe, are an on-the-field thing. Off the field, though, Julian Fleming talked a lot tonight about his mindset and what it takes to be great here at Ohio State, and the mindset that you actually have to have, and the frame of that mind to be able to handle what comes with being here and block out the outside noise.
Yep.
Make sure that you're ready every day to come in here to this beast that is playing at Ohio State, playing in the bright lights for the Buckeyes. If he has that mindset corrected, and that's not to say it was wrong, it just from his words, not mine. It was in different places than it should have been. If he has that mindset right, and he already has the Iron Buckeye label, and he can prove that on the field, I think you're looking at the second best receiver on this roster. And that's not taking anything away from Marvin Harrison Jr. That's not taking anything away from Emeka Egbuka, but this is a third-year player who's had a couple years in the weight room with Mickey Marotti, who has taken it as seriously as anybody this offseason. That was proven with that Iron Buckeye tag. And it's a guy who broke records in a pro option offense in Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania. This is a guy who people kind of forget just how good he was. He was a top 5 player overall in his class, regardless of position. he has a chance to be absolutely special. And to hear him talk tonight, you kind of start to get the sense that everyone in this building, not just Julian Fleming, who's a confident guy, but everyone in this building, Brian Hartline, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Marvin Harrison Jr., Emeka, Jaden Ballard, special teams guys, they all think that he can be, that good and live up to those expectations that were placed on him when he was 16, 17 years old.
I don't even have to write that story now. You see what I'm saying? See what you did for me?
No, you're welcome.
Bottom line is, though, as we all know this, and Julian will probably tell you the same thing, is the cliche, your biggest asset is being availability.
Yep.
He's got to somehow or another figure out how to be available. I mean, you can't, sometimes some guys are just lightning struck for whatever reason. Like Cameron Babb comes walking in here tonight. He's got I think it's his left knee all wrapped up really big and tight. What his availability might be down the road remains to be seen, but we all know his plight. He was named the Bill Willis Block O to wear the Block O jersey, also a captain on this team. And then 2 days later, he's dealing with another knee situation.
Yep.
So it's the availability is what finally tells your story at a place like Ohio State.
Yeah.
And so you wish all the best for Cameron Babb, but meanwhile the clock keeps ticking. And Julian Fleming's one of those guys. Jaden Ballard, as Brian Hartline told us, he has progressed to the point now to where Brian thought he might be by the end of this season from the standpoint of reliability, of route running, etc., catching the ball, and getting a chance to get on the field. So when we talk about this room being deep, we haven't even talked about the freshmen yet, and it is mind-boggling to think about it. But nobody's bragging. That's what's cool about it. When I tried to get Marvin Harrison Jr. to brag about that viral video of him running down a jugs throw in the summer, he started telling me all about what was good about that jugs machine. And I go, no, I wanted to know what you thought about when you watched the video, what you thought about your performance. And he kind of went there, but barely.
Yeah, it's crazy. These wide receivers, they could all be very cocky guys. Wide receiver is a position that historically has been full of cocky guys, but it's a humble bunch. It's a humble group, and Brian Hartline is the same way. They kind of reflect him in that regard. You become more impressed with Brian Hartline every time you talk to him. We don't have to beat that drum.
But you're exactly right.
But it is true. He handles himself as well as anybody in this building, and that includes, from the very top, as good as Ryan Day is at being what he is. Brian Hartline is just as good in his role.
When he first showed up and was sort of being a GA and stuff, I'd be joking with him when we had access to him, and we'd just be joking around and having a good time. But he has turned the corner so far in the direction of a serious, I think he's been around that corner for a while, just serious teacher of the game and serious coach, because you can't, with these guys, especially the talent that he's got, you can't just let them get away with doing it the way they want to do it. There's a way to do things that make you better.
Yes.
And that's what impresses me about his coaching style, is he's been there, done that. He was in the NFL, almost a decade. So they listen to him, but then he doesn't tolerate them slacking. I mean, that's big when you've got a room full of stars like this, and the way he kind of keeps them going, keeps them headed in the right direction is very impressive.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm wearing sunglasses because, once again, they're prescription, and I forgot to bring my other glasses. I'm not trying to be at all a star.
It's always sunny in Coolsville, too.
Yes, it is. That's true that.
We also talked to Parker Fleming, and the specialists it's not the most sexy position group to talk to. Bradley Robinson, the long snapper, didn't get Noah Ruggles. He's in class right now. Good for him, going to class. He's a good student. But
let me ask you this question: why has Bradley Robinson got a Kubota NIL deal? Noah Ruggles doesn't have a Ruggles ice cream deal. I keep asking everybody that question and get no answer.
That's a question for another show, Tim.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to be able to dive into that with our time constraints here. But we'll move forward in our programming. Parker Fleming talks about kick returning. Emeka Egbuka says, yes, there will be a kick return touchdown this year. Tim, yes or no? Kick return touchdown this year for the Buckeyes.
It came so close last year.
And did this media session with the Buckeyes reassure that stance that, yes, there will be a kick return touchdown?
They came so close last year, but it only takes one little slip, one little whatever. But I think there might be more than one. I think Emeka Egbuka is very special in his own way. I think Jaden Ballard even kind of said that, when he was talking about it, but then he didn't really go into much detail. But I just think this guy is different, man. And as I was talking to him about, he's one of those one-cut wonders, which, boy, as a receiver or a kickoff return guy, that is so critical. Because number one, he's already sized up the situation before the snap, to say on a pass day. When he makes his cut, he's gotten to his landmark. Now when he makes his catch, if that guy ain't on him, he kind of has an idea, because of so much study he does, of where everybody else is going to be. So but he puts all that into the daring do of being a one-cut guy, cut and go. The more vertical you get upfield, the more yardage you're going to get. That's exactly what he does on kickoff returns. That's what separates the great from the good in that realm. He doesn't, as he says, he doesn't chop his feet, he cuts it. I said, that sounds like a chef talking, but he definitely does. And yeah, I'm very impressed by this guy. I have been since he got here.
Well,
I don't know if that shows or not in my explanation there.
To me, Emeka has a little bit of, and I hate to use this comparison because Jackson is so good at what he does, and he's the best in the country receiver-wise. Emeka has a little bit of that Jackson quality to him when it comes to returning kicks. When we saw Jackson in the open field last year, he was run down by a couple different defensive backs when he's trying to get to the end zone, a couple different times throughout the season. He doesn't have the most speed on this roster. He doesn't have the most, I'm not going to say he's not the best athlete, because he's a freak athlete, but, he's just
pretty fast.
But he's not, he was caught a couple times, and he'll tell you that. He doesn't care to admit that.
Yeah.
But when he makes one cut, like he did in that game against Nebraska, goodbye.
Yeah.
When he makes one cut, like he did in a couple of those things, he caught a pass over the middle against Utah and then made one guy miss. 40 yards later, you finally track him down. That's the way Emeka operates when he's a kick returner, is he makes that one cut, and then you might try to chase him down 40 yards later, but you're not going to get him 10 yards later because he's just too agile. I think their agility is more comparable than maybe people might leave themselves on.
It's all about the dynamics of the game, because if you can make one cut, a lot of times there are fire trucks screaming to the site of the fire, which is you with the ball in your hands. Mm-hmm. If you can make one cut, a lot of those guys are going the wrong direction.
Yep.
So you look so much faster. I remember Keith Byers. How fast was he? He was as fast as he needed to be. Yep. And he'll even tell you that. But yeah, the one cut guys, that's what I'm saying. That's what sets them apart, because suddenly they make a bunch of guys look foolish if they time it just right. And that's what Emeka's got going for him.
So Marvin Harrison Jr., really good at football, ready to see him play. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Julian Fleming, Emeka Egbuka, really good at this game here on this turf. Excited to see them play in 10 days. We're going to be here for the next 10 days, not in this building, actually. We're not camping out here. We could probably, but we might get in trouble from Jerry Emick. 10 days to go, Ohio State, Notre Dame in the Horseshoe, September 3rd, 7:30. We'll be there. Lettermen Row have full coverage, and full coverage leading up to that event, Tim. It's going to be a huge one.
Yeah.
And training camp is officially over for us. All 9-10 position groups in the books. Hopefully you've enjoyed the coverage so far. If you like it, check out the Lettermen Lounge, the message board. Come hang out with us there. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get those things. This is Lettermen Row. This is the practice report from the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. That's Tim May. I'm Spencer Holbrook. We'll see you back in here next week.